This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so we're reading Sri Nisargadatta's I Am That. We're on chapter 64, Whatever Pleases You Keeps You Back. And we're on the paragraph that begins, it's about 3 pages in, we believe in so many things on hearsay, is where we stopped off. Well, actually, we stopped off a little bit later, but this is a good place to start. Good reading. So he starts off, he says, we believe in so many things based on hearsay, right? Meaning taught secondhand. And so we just kind of believe it, take it to be real. Everything that we hear on the telly or read on the internet, all of it's hearsay because we don't really have a way of validating it except to cross-reference it with other forms of hearsay, right? And so when we got enough forms of hearsay, then we think it's not hearsay anymore. We believe in distant lands and people. We believe in heavens and hells, in gods and goddesses, because we were told. Similarly, we were told about ourselves, our parents, our name, our position, our duties, and so on. We never really cared to verify. The way to truth lies through the destruction of the false. To destroy the false, you must question your most inveterate beliefs. Of those, the idea that you are the body is the worst. The body comes the world. With the world, God, who is supposed to have created the world, and thus it starts. Fears, religions, prayers, sacrifices, all sorts of systems. All to protect and to support the child man, frightened out of his wits by the monsters of his own making. Realize that what you are cannot be born, cannot die, and with the fear gone, all suffering ends. Yes, well, this idea of the destruction of the false, they say it that way because it's not the creation of anything, right? If it was the creation of something, then that something would have to decay, would have to go away. And so this is a way of describing something that always is, which is your realization, your being, yourself as the divine. And so we've talked about the way that we got into this mess is that we're born into a world, a finite world, that's all within time-space causation as part of the creation. And when we wake up first in that world, we can't fit in that world. We're a spiritual being. We're not a physical being. We're never born. We never die. We have an infinite boundary. And so we really can't experience this world. And so to enter into this world, we have to create something that can experience thought. So that something that we create that can experience thought is the idea of a body, right? And we create that idea of a body to live in the finite. And so we create what we call an ego, obviously, to define ourselves in the world of thought, in the world of constant change, because we can't bring our true self into that world. We just don't fit in that world. We don't obey the rules of that world. And so only the body can step into that world. And we can identify with the body then. And so then we have a thought body to live in the mind amongst all of the other thoughts in a universe of thoughts, right? Where everything is a thought. So you've created a self in thought called egoism that is constantly collecting attributes of thoughts, right? With thoughts that come in the moment, thoughts that were thoughts in the past, experiences, whatnot, collecting all of them like a bird making a nest, right? But it's more frantic than that because it knows that if you were to dismantle it, to remove all of the wrong thinking, there would be nothing there, right? And so that is why what is necessary is the removal of the false, not adding anything to it, just removing our wrong ideas, and then that which is obvious will become apparent to
So,
us.
Maharaj, can I ask, so who created it? When you say you've created it, who's that you?
That is the question. If you answer that, you get to graduate. If you answer that, you get to graduate. Yes, it's a creation, and the sustenance and destruction is a loop, right? It's a loop. So wherever you want to break that loop, you can break it and say it started there. Any place is as good as the other. Every single place requires as big of a miracle as any other. So it's really up to you. But
You're saying
yeah,
the
I
loop
don't.
of Maya? You're saying the loop of Maya that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is
And I don't, I don't believe that it's a creation in the sense like this. Nothing that you're experiencing right now can exist in and of itself. It all requires you. And so and it's all just a thought. There's no such thing as a material world. It's like it's all thought, it's all consciousness. And so everything is a collection of thoughts that you're experiencing. So I mean, it's kind of like a software. We're, rather than really creating a world, we're writing software, a gaming software, as it were, creating an imagined world, a world of thought that's infinite only because it will continue to create itself as far as you observe, right? They say in quantum physics that nothing in the universe takes form until it's observed. And so once you observe it, it takes a form.
I
So
guess like the dream, like the dream body that's created.
exactly.
There's no.
Yeah, a dream body in the dream world. That's why in some of our other readings, we pointed out that Sri Nisargadatta calls the waking state, he calls it the waking dream state, because he says its nature is the same as the nature of the dream sleep, of the sleep state, the dream state.
Thank you.
Sure. What the mind invents, the mind destroys. But the real is not invented and cannot be destroyed. Hold on to that over which the mind has no power. What I am telling you about is neither in the past nor in the future, nor is it in the daily life as it flows in the now. It is timeless, and the total timelessness of it is beyond the mind. My guru and his words, "You are myself," are timelessly with me. In the beginning, I had fixed my mind on them, but now it has become natural and easy. The point when the mind accepts the words of the guru as true and lives by them spontaneously and in every detail of daily life is the threshold of realization. In a way, it is salvation by faith, but the faith must be intense and lasting. Right, I love that description that he has there. His guru's words that thou art that, or you are myself, right? Equivalent statements. He says that then he said, the point when the mind accepts those words, right? That's why they call it realization. So it's a truth that that is always true within you, right? But the mind can't accept it, right? Because the mind is still holding on to ego state, and in ego state there is no grace. In ego state, everything is paid for. Ego state is the person under karma, right? And so everything is determined by that karma. And so they're stuck there. And so we have to undo that creation of the ego in the world of thought and return to ourself in the silence before thought, before mind, before body, right? And in that silence, it's self-apparent. It's obvious what we are. But again, all of the tools of language require time-space causation. And so you cannot use language to describe your nature. That's why it's always a realization in silence, a profound silence, right? When you return your attention to yourself and become aware of it, aware of its nature. right? So this faith, he says, you must not think that faith itself is enough. It's not enough just to say, hey, I'm saved. Om Ram Bingo finished. He says, faith expressed in action is a sure means to realization, right? The thing about it is that your realization, the gift of your realization produces the spontaneous response of worship within you, right? And so you carry on your worldly life inspired purely by Satchitananda at that point. You're no longer being driven by the world of thought, where normally the motivation is hunger or thirst. You make a transition to being led by, or led from behind, as it were, by inspiration, by the movings of Satchitananda within you, as it were, in your individual self. And so your life becomes expression, which is the purpose of human life, to express that divine nature continuously in the moment, to accept everything that time brings to you, apply your Satchitananda and hand it back. Just like your father giving you money to buy him a Father's Day gift. You take that money, you put your love into it by choosing something you think he would like, and then you give it back to him. And that turned his money into love. And so that's what we do. We turn Maya into love, as it were, into recognizable love. But I love this last statement here about what faith really is. He says, faith in action is a sure means to realization. Of all the means, it is the most effective. There are teachers who deny faith and trust reason only. Actually, it is not faith they deny, but blind belief. Faith is not blind. It is the willingness to try. Right? So that's what your faith is. Your faith is believing these thoughts, believing these ideas, these truths, holding them to be true before you believe them to be true. Right? So it gives you enough of a motivation to say, well, maybe they're true and maybe they're worth studying. And so then you begin studying and find them to be, well, worthwhile or not worthwhile as you go. Right? Make your decisions as you go. But I love that. Faith is not blind. It is the willingness to try. So if you want to know what faith is, that's what it is. It's believing something enough to try it, to do the experiment, to see if it's real. The questioner says, we were told that all forms of spiritual practices, the practice of the attitude of a mere witness is the most effective, most efficacious. How does it compare with faith? Maharaj, the witness attitude is also faith. It is faith in oneself. You believe that you are not what you experience, and you look at everything as from a distance. There is no effort in witnessing. You understand that you are the witness only, and the understanding acts. You need nothing more. Just remember that you are the witness only. If in the state of witnessing you ask yourself, who am I? The answer comes at once, though it is wordless and silent. Cease to be the object and become the subject of all that happens. Once having turned within, you will find yourself beyond the subject. When you have found yourself, you will find that you are also beyond the object, that both the subject and the object exist in you, but that you are neither. Right? So these subjects of that you've created, that you've put together, are this idea of yourself, this ego self, right? This bundle of thought attributes that you've adhered to your thought body, right? In order to live a thought life.
So Maharaj, is that when he's asking, who am I, is like one of the tools that he's suggesting that you use. And then, but he's, instead of, I guess he's saying that you come back to the answer that you're the witness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, you're the witness for a while until you transcend even that. That's what he's saying at that very last part there, where you transcend that, where you are both subject and an object exist in you, but you are neither. So that subject object is the witness state, because the witness is observing objects in consciousness. Awareness is observing objects, which is called consciousness.
Right.
Consciousness with no objects is awareness. Awareness with objects is consciousness. All right. And he's saying here, he's not so much talking about who am I as a practice. He's saying that if you can come into that witness state where you know yourself to be only the witness, and at that point the question arises, who am I? The answer will be plain, will be obvious to you, which is to say that it's your karma that's preventing you from seeing it right now. Because in order to be purely witness, right, you have to be a non-doer, right? You have to be purely witnessing, so there's no doing. And it's that doing that binds you to your karma, right? So if you can reach a witness state where you absolutely see yourself purely in the moment with no history and no future, right? You see yourself purely now, and you let go of everything. You're just simply watching. Then you are a person with no karma at that time. Oh, or just enough of the karma to keep a body, at that point. Questioner, you speak of the mind, of the witnessing consciousness beyond the mind, and on the supreme, which is beyond awareness. Do you mean to say that even awareness is not real? Maharaj, as long as you deal in terms, right? As long as you're talking about words, unreal, awareness. Awareness is the only reality that can be, but the supreme is beyond all distinctions. And to it, the term real does not apply, for in it all is real, and therefore need not to be labeled as such. It is the very source of reality. It imparts reality to whatever it touches. It just cannot be understood through words. Even indirect experience, however sublime, merely bears testimony, nothing more. It merely bears testimony means it's always only pointing. God can never be grabbed. You cannot put an attribute on the Lord, right? There's in the one without a second, you can't even have a thought, right? Because there is nothing else. There is nothing other. And the nature of that self is outside of time. And if something is outside of time, it cannot be written about. Right? If something outside of time, it cannot be thought about. And so this is the thing, why we go inside in silence. But in that silence, you come to realize you are outside of time. That's why when you have the great meditations, the best meditations in your life are the ones where you forgot time, where suddenly you came out of the meditation and you'd been doing it for hours without realizing it. That's the best way to step outside of time. And so this is where we become aware of our timelessness, is in that meditation, as we stretch out into an infinity, right? Everything in Maya goes in circles. So we were talking about that loop, earlier. And so this time-space causation, everything goes in circles. Vivekananda says God did that because that's the only way he can mimic infinity in the finite. So the atoms circle the nucleus, planets circle the sun, everything that's the earth spins endlessly. So everything going in circles is to keep us a constant reminder of an observable indication of infinity, right? Circles that have no beginning or end. And so this idea of stepping outside of time steps outside of language. This is why you cannot be a thought of yourself. This is why the ego cannot be you. And this is why we always have that nagging idea that there's something more. Because anything that can be named, anything that can be put into a word is not real. It has to come and it has to go. Right? So he says, everything that we experience cannot be expressed through words. Even a direct experience, however sublime, bears merely testimony, nothing more, because it's simply, that's why everything is constantly changing in this world. This world is a snapshot of God, right, as it were. But it's an infinite stack of snapshots because you can't take a snapshot of God. And so you have an infinite, ever-changing stack of photographs to describe God. So Maya, in order to describe the appearance of God, has to go on an infinite journey of presenting unrepeatable change, right? And that is the only way God can be described. And even that is not enough, he says in that last verse there. And then here we've got, is it Mark's question? But who creates the world? Maharaj, the universal mind makes and unmakes everything. The Supreme imparts reality to whatever comes into being. To say that it is the universal love may be the nearest we can come to it in words. Just like love, it makes everything real, everything beautiful, everything desirable. Right? So that's idea of the Satchitananda is that love. And the universe happens through attachment. Right? This is where we have that playful idea that God is the universal mind. All of us cut off a piece of that mind and boundary it with ego, right? But we're all using the same universal mind. We just have egoed out our little section of it that we use. And we carry on thinking that we're living in a physical world when we're living in our own mental world and sharing a general space together, thinking that we're many because we're in the dream. As soon as we're no longer in the dream, we realize that we were the dreamer and that all the dreamed lived within us. There was nothing outside of self, right? That it's just a constant cycle of expression in itself. And this universal mind, which in all of us live, but which none of us control entirely, we actually don't, really in truth, we don't control any of it. But at least Mother gives us 10 feet of rope to think that we're free for that 10 feet. So we play around as if we're free. And it really doesn't matter. Don't get hooked up on that question. Is, is there free will or not? Because it doesn't matter. It's just free will is just a perspective. It's nothing more than that. You read a book and there's no free will in that book, but you'll read it, even though you know there's no free will in it, right? Just because it's about having the unknown become known. That's what our interest is. All right, so this universal mind makes and unmakes everything. And the Supreme, then, with whatever is made by mind, this is going to be a statement in time when we're outside of time for right now. But anyway, just allow it for a second, that the universal mind creates the phantom, right? Creates the body of Adam that lays unanimated in the garden. And then it is the Supreme, which imparts the reality to it. The Supreme, which is the breath of life that's breathed into the lifeless Adam, body of Adam, and brings him into life. To say that it is universal love may be the nearest we can come to it in words. Indeed, that's much more beautiful. The idea of infinite love breathing the breath of life into the form of Adam and then inhabiting it through attachment, right? So God, the owner of the universal mind, has a thought of love, attaches to it, and it becomes a person. And that person becomes you, your life. And your life becomes a complete thought from beginning to end of what pure love is, right? And so God, in essence, the entire universe over its entirety of time is a constantly edited Wikipedia entry on what is love. That is constantly being updated with every new birth and every new exit of a body. Right? So it is this love which makes, just like love, it makes everything real, everything beautiful, everything desirable. So that's that notion. It is you require God in order to produce meaning, because God is love, and it's love alone that gives anything meaning, right? Without love, there is no meaning. And so that's how we hold on to a meaningful life, even though we often believe in a material world. A material world basically drains out the ideas of love into ideas of efficiency and logic and affordability, right? But the heart cares nothing of these things of division. The heart is about service, about inspiration, about believing and encouraging one another. And the currency is infinite, because we all have an infinite amount of love to spread. And the more we spread that love, the farther along this path to one without a second we all come, because it is that love that will bind us all into that singularity. It is that cord of love that will bind us all into that reality.
But Maharaj,
Yes.
would like, even if you think of the love of objects, or I mean, that would have to be included in that, right? At the end, that whether
Yes,
it's love of or desire, or love of worldly things or materialistic things, at the end, it's all part of one and the same.
exactly. In the end, you realize that all the objects that you loved were merely reflecting a name of the God beyond them, right?
Right,
So all of your desires are just a name of God that you're confusing with an object. It's
right.
being
That was
right. So an object flickers with the light of awareness that's reflecting from you, right? And for a moment, you catch a name of God or something that reminds you of your nature in it. And because of that, you want it, you desire it, you see something familiar in it.
so.
And
So
that,
the blinding thing is that not to see God in it.
well, the yes,
The veiling part is not to see God in it.
right, yes, the
Nothing.
wailing is, yes, to see nothing in it, just an object of desire, and to be caught. And that's why they call the hungry ghost, because his eyes are always wide with desire, and he's constantly eating but never full, right? And that's the
Right.
nature of desire of the body of senses anyway. And that's why we're instructed to get away from them as fast as possible, not because they're inherently bad, not because there's an evil and a good that exists outside of us. There's not. So it's not because they're wrong that we don't do them. It's because they're not helpful to do them. And if we engage in them, we go deeper into darkness. It becomes more and more difficult to see ourselves. Our ego becomes thicker, right? Ego and Maya are synonyms. Egoism is the veil that prevents us from seeing God. And it's not that God goes anywhere. It's that ego is the projection of something not God over God, right? And so we live in that projection. And so that creates desire. We see things that we want to have. And so our questioner says, well, why desirable? Maharaj says, why not? Right? Why not? Wherefrom come all the powerful attractions that make all created things respond to each other? What brings people together, if not from the Supreme? Shun not desire. See only that it flows into the right channels. Without desire, you are dead, but with low desires, you are a ghost. So shun not desire. That's a very interesting thing. He says, don't shun desire. See that it only flows into the right channels, right? Just make sure that your desire flows in channels of longing for the divine, channels for a longing of freedom, right? Channels for a desire to alleviate suffering. All of these desires that are in accordance with your nature will take you toward the divine. And so you just want to discern your desires, right? Until you can see the name of God, and then abstract that and go for that. Go for the abstracted name of God and not for the object. The object can't fulfill, but that which it is reflecting is its own fulfillment, right? So I love this idea that it's this power of attraction, right? Is what life is. It's what keeps us experiencing, right? Practicing our existence, as it were. This is how we experience our life, right? And so he says it's all desirable because of that. So don't worry about the desire. Just desire the right things. Don't desire the objects. Desire God. And look through the universe. Constantly look through it, because it is just an ornament of God, right? And so we look past the ornaments. Don't get caught up in mother's jewelry, right? What does a child have to do with mother's jewelry, right? You look beyond the jewelry at mother's face. You see mother's face behind the jewelry. And then the jewelry becomes even more beautiful, more meaningful to you. So the questioner says, well, what is the experience which comes nearest to the Supreme? Right? We know that we can't have an experience of God because God is the experiencer and the experience. God is the whole shebang. That's why they say realization is when the triad, time, space, causation, or subject, object, verb, right? That or past, present, future. They say that realization is when any of those triads collapse into a singularity, to where you have time, space, and causation at once. You realize that there are no boundaries behind them, that which was present is that which was past, is that which was future, that the distinction was delusion, right? Or time, space, causation. All three are needed. You need all one. You can't have any of the other two without the third one, right? And so it is that triad that collapses into a oneness. And so if you have subject, object, verb, and they collapse into a singularity, where is the experience? And where is the experiencer? And where is that which is experienced, right? You see that they're all one. Time, space, and causation, it's easy to see because you realize that time, space, and causation really is invented by boundary. You have to create an artificial boundary in order for time, space, and causation, well, for causation in particular, to exist, right? You put that, because to say that this is the cause of this effect, you have to put your boundaries right where this one becomes a cause and where this one is the effect. Because if you move that boundary, then your effect over here is going to be a cause, right? And this effect is also going to be a cause. And you find that everything in the universe is both a cause and an effect simultaneously, and therefore it is a meaningless distinction, right? And so when you know that everything is both the cause and the effect, then distinction becomes unnecessary and it collapses. And that collapse is that singularity, one without a second, of which nothing can be said, because it cannot be conceived of, because it lacks the triad, which the mind needs. The tent of the mind needs that center pole of time, space, causation in order to conceive of anything. And so we had to create a story of ourselves, an ego, to place it into the world of change, to experience it. And now we sit here experiencing the world through our artificial identity, right? And we've placed that in the world and we live as that. So we live as that avatar in the game. Our game, I've never played one of these big computer games, but you have an avatar that you control in that space. And I imagine once you really get into that game, you become that avatar. I bet you just enter into that world and you're fully, because I've heard grown men screaming, those little videos that I watch online when bombs go off and whatnot like that. So it's just like Maya. We just enter into it as if it's real and experience it, just like you do a movie, right? You enter into that movie. You have to believe it to be real. You have to have the mind interpret the colors into form, right? So those forms take the shapes that identifies humans, male, female, children, blah, blah, blah. And then it has to get you to hold on to that so it can drag you along a timeline to give you a story. And then you have to provide all of your experience. That's why you weep, because you remember breaking up with your loved one, or you remember your father dying. And so you bring that and you project it onto the movie, and you see the person dying. You project your own meaning on it, right? Because all meaning is in you. And you actually create the movie as you watch it. in real time. Right? And so this is where we're at. So what is the experience which comes nearest to the Supreme? Maharaj, immense peace and boundless love. Right? So that is what, when you get as close, before dissolution, you get right up next to, for some reason I see a little kitten pushing up against its mother, just before the kitten merges into mother, the final experience really is Satchitananda, is what he's describing here, right? That that it's immense peace and boundless love. Realize that whatever there is true, noble, and beautiful in the universe, it all comes from you. That you yourself are the source of it. The gods and the goddesses that supervise the world may be most wonderful and glorious beings, yet they are like the gorgeously dressed servants who proclaim the power and the riches of their master. Right? So this immense peace and boundless love. Realize that whatever there is, it's true, noble, and beautiful in the universe, that it all comes from you. Right? You are the one that is the source of nobility. Nothing is noble until it comes to you and you deign it to be noble. Right? Nothing has a quality until it meets you and you say, you're orange, you're tall, you're fat, you're thin. Right? None of those objects, none of those attributes mean anything until you assign them. Why is that? Because within you is the divine absolute. You are the center post of the universe. Everything in your universe is relative to you. Right? That's what ego living is. Everything in our universe is directly limited by ourself. We are the ones that give it form, give it name, give it value. Right? That's why in both the creation stories, it's always the folks at the very beginning who name everything. Right? Things exist in your universe once you name them. You may call them I don't know for a while. All right. So how does one reach that supreme state, Maharaj? By renouncing all of your lesser desires. Right? By not running after things, not letting your attention go into the senses, holding your attention in itself. That's what you want, he says. By renouncing all lesser desires, as long as you are pleased with the lesser, you cannot have the highest. Whatever pleases you keeps you back. Until you realize the unsatisfactoriness of everything, its transiency, and its limitation, and collect your energies in one great longing, even the first step is not made. On the other hand, the integrity of the desire for the Supreme is by itself a call from the Supreme. Nothing physical or mental can give you freedom. You are free once you understand that your bondage is of your own making, and that you cease forging the chains that bind you. To come to realize that freedom and liberation are of the mind, and that you are in charge, right? But that the reason that we keep white knuckling it, we can't let go because of our deeper attachments at levels we're not even yet aware of, right? We have to let go of things that we don't even know we're holding on to yet. This is my best example of this. Is that time I broke my leg in the temple back in 2008, right? My tibia there, my foot broke right in the middle, so my foot was dangling off of my body, dangling free. So I had to hold my own foot back on my own leg. I had to put it back on and hold it there. And so I was holding it there when the medics came. And of course, when they came, they wanted to cut my trouser leg so they could put a splint on the leg so I wouldn't have to hold my foot on. And so they told me to let go. and I was perfectly willing to let go. Could not let go. They told me 3 times, let go. And I was like, I'm trying. They're not listening to me. My hands will not let go. I could not control my hands, right? I couldn't control them. Something much deeper was using my hands, right? It was like, no, we're not going to let go of that foot, right? And so they had to pry my own hands off of my own leg. I never was not able to let go. They had to literally force them off. And so this is how we cling to the world, right? And this is why he says all you have to do is renounce your lesser desires. You know, Holy Mother says you can have your enlightenment this moment if you can let go of your desires, right? So that's the paradox. It's super simple to realize God. It's super simple. You just have to let go of unreal things and stop desiring them. That's all you have to do. But we're white knuckled, right? The paramedics, the gurus are going to have to individual fingers peel them off of Maya for you, and then finally you let go, right? And so that's the difficulty. Spiritual life, it's not spiritual life that's difficult. It's overcoming our bad habits and our wrong thinking that's difficult. It's what we've done to ourselves that makes it difficult, not the task itself. Task itself, ridiculously simple. Ridiculously simple. And there's a riddle to it, which is what we're trying to figure out, because you do this every single night. You renounce everything utterly when you go to sleep and enter the dream world. You renounce your daytime body. You renounce your daytime wife and husband and children. You renounce your bank accounts. You renounce your education. You renounce your family, your relatives and friends. You renounce the whole world. And you do it so completely that you don't have a single thought of it. And then you enter into a dream and you accept a brand new body without questioning it. You accept a whole new world without questioning it. You accept a whole new state of being without questioning it. You are master renouncers, every one of us, master renouncers. So that's not the trouble. It's being willing to step off the cliff in the dark. That's the trouble. Mother says, come. And you're like, mm-mm. She's like, come. Mm-mm. Right? Just like that. And so our whole spiritual practice is Mother inviting us to step off the edge and us being like, mm-mm. But each time we get a little bit less resolve. And one day we'll step. One day we'll believe enough. We'll have enough faith. And we'll be like, you know what? She's done so much. Certainly she's there on the other side of that step. And you go. And Om Ram Bingo finished. Right?
Maharaj, if you believe in the unreality of things, do you think that the desires will fall off by themselves?
Yes. Yeah. If you want an orange and someone throws you a plastic piece of orange fruit, you will renounce it. You will not eat it. And so once you realize what you're holding on to is temporary, this is the beauty of old age, you know. My experience now of 61 as it's a beautiful, it's inspiring and beautiful and utterly natural renunciation. You know, I look at my body and I'm like, well, those days are finished. There's nothing but clean up on aisle 3 left now. And so if we accept the lessons, accept the age, accept the decay, right? This is part of it. This is the last third. We've experienced God the creator and we've experienced God the sustainer, and now we're watching God the destroyer, right? And as he dismantles that which was put together for you, your body, your chariot for the ride.
Wait until you're 80 and then look at your body.
Yeah, well, I can look at yours. I've got a whole wall of examples here. Yeah, no, this is the fun of it, right? Look at it and understand. You're seeing the work of Shiva now as he dismantles your body. And every single bit of decay that happens, every wrinkle he gives you is a blessing. One more thing to say, let go of this thing, let go of it, right? It'll just keep getting worse. And you'll see when you go to see and watch somebody die, there's nothing left of that body at all. I mean, it's riddled with disease and starving to death and aged beyond words. And still the person inside is just clinging to that frame, right? Look at the condition that mother has to get our body into before we even think about letting go of it.
Swamiji, is it just the attachment to one's body that is the ego part? Or
Yes. Well,
what about attachment to others? That's not coming from the body. We may not be attached to the body that much.
Oh, sure it
Especially
is. No, it is. No, you're definitely attached to the body in the extreme, because you assign everybody else a body. That means you believe that you're a body. You would never assign a body to someone else if you didn't believe yourself to be a body. And so, yeah, it's the body that creates the multiplicity, but the body's not the cause. It's our attachment, to these things. That's the problem. And we use the body, we identify with body, right? We attach to it by thinking it's us, because we built it as a symbol of us. We built it to use it in the mind, in the world of change. So we step into this body, and it's the only way that we can experience the world of change. So it doesn't have any competition. So it's very easy to believe that we are the body, right? But the body is only a thought. It's created from thought, right? And the ego self, the mental self, is created from past, right? It's entirely assembled from samskara. So it has no reality either. And so normally we're living life sitting on the past and observing a present moment, right? Because in the present moment, there's no room for a thought. In the present moment, there is no room for something that requires time-space causation, because the moment is the collapse. The moment is the entirety. The entire past is indicated in the present moment, and the entire projection of any possible future comes out of the present moment. So it is the present moment that is God, that is pure love, pure wisdom, pure being. It is scripture. It is truth, right? And so this is why we're trying to inhabit the moment. But the moment is infinitely small, so you can't bring anything with you. You can't bring a single description of yourself. You have to let go of everything. If you can let go of everything, have thought completely fall away, then your spontaneous experience of the moment will be God, will be samadhi, right? That one without a second, where all is known. When all is known, all narratives collapse, all stories end, all dreams cease. When you come to know that you have a center at every point in the universe, you are all knowing, and all of the mystery dissolves, all of the unknown dissolves, right? All of the stories of life, all of the narratives that created desires and sought them, all of those narratives, the stories of your life, they all collapse because you know everything, and all stories require ignorance. All right, so how does one really get to this state? By renouncing all lesser desires. As long as you are pleased with the lesser, right? So as long as you like this life, as long as you're comfortable here, you're not really interested in going anywhere. He says you can't have the highest, right? Because you haven't developed the ability to accept it yet, right? Because if you're enjoying this world, you're enjoying ego space, which means you're enjoying being in charge, enjoy being in control, you're enjoying your stories, your narrative lines. And you can't have God and enjoy those things simultaneously, because those things all disappear in the light of God, right? They disappear in the light of God. And so as long as you're content here, and that's not to say that that's a bad thing or a wrong thing, course, all the sages want you to renounce immediately because they know what fun they're having. They know they know the greatness of it. We don't. We don't remember it. So we're kind of okay with spaghetti, right? We don't need any filet mignon. The spaghetti is fine for us. And so until that you wake up, uh, at some level, you've got to wake up inside at one point and go like, really? This is it? Just running around fulfilling 5 forms of desire all the time, looking for pretty things, pretty sounds, pretty feelings. Is this all I do? I'm a kind of, remember an alien, that thing that connected to your face and then dropped some sort of pipe and digested in your stomach thing. Anyway, that's what our ego is. It's attached to our divine face, right? It's totally taken over our sense of reality, right? And blinded us. Blinded us. So we have to renounce, undo this, get these things off of us, find out this is not a pleasant state to be in, get frustrated with the idea that everything lasts. I spent, $60,000 and enjoyed my brand new spanking high-end Mercedes for exactly 3 days. And then the new model came out. And now I no longer have the latest and greatest. So the ego's not satisfied anymore. You don't have the latest model car. You just have a car now. And then somebody scratches it, then you don't have a new car. And on it goes. And then you have to go through the cycle again. You have to come up with another $60,000. Well, this time it'll be 80,000, right? And so this is the nature of the world. And at some point you wake up and think, God, I'm on a big, giant gerbil wheel, hamster wheel. I'm just constantly fixing the roof before it breaks again, just enough money to save to fix the hot water heater before I have to start saving again, and just finished this year's vacation and now I have to plan next year's. And after a while, you snap out of it. You snap out of it and you're like, what? Wow, what am I doing? What is going on here? You find yourself, you wake up in this giant house of sprawling expenses, and you suddenly realize you're sitting in the middle of it unchanged. You're the same person you've always been. You've worked so hard to earn all these things, and you're still just you in the middle of it, right? Become interested in the you that's sitting in the middle of everything you own, and you won't need a single one of the things you've buried yourself in. Not one of them. Right? And so this is what he's saying: renounce these lesser beings, these lesser desires. Whatever pleases you keeps you back. Right? Because that pleasure, that is a lulling. It's you drifting off into a reverie of the senses, right? I'm so comfortable, so nice. And what do you do when you're comfortable and nice? You drift off into unconsciousness. You stop observing, right? Until you realize the unsatisfactoriness of everything. Why? Because it's transient. Everything has an expiration date. Nothing you buy do you own. That's even more real today than it ever was, right? When I was a kid, if you bought something, you owned it. Now you just come to realize you licensed it. You don't own anything. And so when you come to realize this in this world, nobody is an owner in this world, right? Everybody's a renter. Everybody has to turn in their keys on the last day, right? So this idea of being an owner in this world is a fallacy, a big one. No one's an owner. Everybody is a renter here because everything has an expiration date. Everything turns out. So everything is transient. Everything is limited, right? It's all limited. That cake, it may be delicious, but it's going to be the last piece at some point, right? I know this grand country song by the Handsome Family about an alcoholic. It's a man singing to his alcoholic wife, and he's just trying to make her realize, that she's living in fear of the bottom of the glass, right? That her whole life is lived in fear of the bottom of the glass. running out of that alcohol, getting that final, not being able to maintain your intoxication. And that's the nature of this world. If you start taking the intoxication of the world as your means of identity and pleasure, fear is your closest companion, right? Because all that you have can always be taken away, can always be lost. So the more you have, the greater that fear of loss and dependency on those things. Right? So renounce them and let them go. See that they cannot deliver on their promise. They never give you what they promise you, and it never lasts. Right? Collect your energies in one great longing, right? That is to understand that all of the things that you look for in objects are actually names of God that you are wanting to attain. So he's saying, collect all of those desires for all these objects, discern and see what you really want, and let go of the objects and let what you really want carry you like a sail to your reality, to your divine nature. Right? And so he says, collect your energies into one great longing. Even the first step is not made until you've done that, right? So we're in the preparatory stages even still. He says, on the other hand, the integrity of the desire for the Supreme is by itself a call from the Supreme, right? So just the fact that you're interested it means Mother's called your name. Your ears perked up for a moment. Or as Ramakrishna says it, the serpent has bitten you, the cobra has bitten you, and now it's just a matter of time till your liberation. Right? Nothing physical or mental can give you freedom, right? So nothing outside of yourself, nothing outside of yourself is necessary. So you don't have to go gather your pieces for this journey. You just start. Just go forward. You have all that you need. You are free once you understand that your bondage is of your own making, and you cease forging the chains that bind you. Right? So this is why we do so much discernment, because in that discernment we discover these truths. Right? These truths become self-evident, self-luminous, as they say. We see them as true. So faith, interestingly enough, is just really necessary to get you started. And then the experience will take you forward, right? That touching the divine within will awaken that curiosity. Mother will always keep you interested if you are, right? And she'll slowly coax you out of these things that you don't think you can live without. Slowly teach you how to laugh at an aging body, how to find freedom in an aching joint, how to find joy in the thought of death, right? As we go forward, learning to laugh at everything. And once we're good and old and giggly and laughing at all the things we're seeing and experiencing, right, then it's time to go home. And as a saint, we'll leave laughing, right? It says I don't know who, I think Ramakrishna says it somewhere, the only difference between a holy man and a worldly man is that the holy man leaves the world laughing and the worldly man leaves the world weeping. Right? So know your nature and be free. All right, oh my goodness, I'm taking you way past time. So let's stop here for today.